Superheroes in video games seem like a natural fit, right? Who wouldn't want to save the world and defeat fierce enemies as their favorite caped crusader or sarcastic web-slinger? While these two mediums have come together and produced a decent amount of stellar experiences, more often than not, they've resulted in lackluster games trying to capitalize on film releases. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and click on the links in the description to vote on upcoming content. Many characters have had a hard time getting the games they deserve. Before the Arkham series, Batman had very few games that could be described as good. And as for Superman, well, we're still trying to get him a good game. We could talk about Superman 64, but that's a dead horse, and actually we already have a video about that. And don't even get us started on that Aquaman game either. Ooh, baby. Yeah, DC Comics has had its ups and downs, but don't worry, Marvel, we haven't forgotten about you too. Marvel's cast has also had a spotty record of good games. Spider-Man's had some good titles, Deadpool remained faithful to the Merc with a Mouth, and even the Hulk gained a following with some of his games.
The Incredible Hulk is on an unstoppable path of rampage.
However, one superhero team has had more than a few complications when it comes to gaming: the X-Men. While the Mutants boast one of the most memorable arcade beat-em-ups in video games, their first title on the NES was an absolute disaster. As we said in our top 10 worst superhero video games, we understand that when the Uncanny X-Men was released, the gaming industry was still figuring out what a good game looked like. However, even in 1989, this was unacceptable. That being said, there are simply too many issues with this NES title that can't be ignored. Upon firing it up, you'll be greeted with very little fanfare. The menu design lacks any sort of personality, which makes it difficult to get excited about playing it. Even the character selection screen doesn't even work. It's so sensitive that picking your X-Man is enough to give players a headache right then and there. Yes, this might come across as nitpicky, but having a stylish menu with an awesome theme is what made some of the retro classics, well, classic. And this game lacks any sort of personality. When you booted up something like Mega Man 2, you were in for an awesome title screen and heard a theme that got you pumped and ready to play. But the menus were also easy to navigate and the controls were responsive. That's just kind of like one of the first rules in game design right there. Make a menu that works, you know? Going back to the character roster, there are a few issues that need to be addressed here. While the game displays each mutant's stats, nothing about their playstyles differentiate them from each other. You basically choose between melee and ranged characters. While each hero has a unique ability, it's definitely not enough to keep the game fresh. Look, Storm can fly. Nightcrawler passes through walls. Yeah, cool, but you know what happens if you use your special powers too many times? You die. This is actually a problem a lot of games had at the time. This weird notion that using a character's unique abilities meant they needed to be nerfed or limited somehow. Instead of basing a game around what makes the X-Men special, the X part, developer LJN, yeah, that LJN, made something very flat and generic, just with the words X-Men slapped on the cover. For whatever reason, and this is definitely the worst part about the game, it forces a second player on you. Of course, the AI is worthless. No, we wish the AI did nothing, but that's not the case, it's far from it. The AI actually kinda trolls you. You can't leave the screen until the second player catches up, you see. They spend more time getting stuck or lagging behind than they do actually keeping up pace. This results in the player getting stuck and killed, like, a lot. To that end, the player might take enough damage in the process that getting a proper go at the level is actually pointless. All of these pitfalls might be forgiven if the player could still wrestle out some kind of fun. But as far as actual gameplay goes, LJN wasn't even trying. The Uncanny X-Men features some of the messiest level design we've ever seen on the NES. Not only are the levels maze-like, but the textures blend in with each other, and you can't tell what's a wall, what's a floor, and what's gonna kill ya. Areas that seem accessible aren't, and everything feels like it was kinda randomly thrown together. Oh, and the screen is just filled with enemies that never stop respawning. Don't even bother trying to actually fight them, just walk right by them. That's the strategy here. Ignore the game. walk past everything. It's the X-Men way. The Uncanny X-Men may be a very old title, but that really doesn't excuse it for having such horrid level design and uninspired gameplay. Imagine being a kid and getting this for Christmas. Your parents spent a lot of money on it. Or being a big X-Men fan and getting stuck with this shit. Despite it being one of the oldest superhero games and the first of many Marvel games to come, we have no choice but to name the Uncanny X-Men as the worst Marvel superhero game of all time. Thanks for watching Mojo Plays. Be sure to subscribe and click on the link in the description below to check out our suggestion page and vote on what content you'd like to see us cover next.